My beloved child, listen carefully to me now, because I am speaking straight to your spirit. What you have just completed is not something small. Heaven did not receive it quietly. There was rejoicing. There was celebration moving through unseen places the moment you took that final step. And even now, the sound of that joy continues to echo. You may not yet recognize it with your natural eyes. You may not fully understand what has shifted in your life. But I am telling you clearly, something remarkable has happened, and it carries your name upon it. I know the path that brought you here, because I walked it beside you. I saw every battle you fought when no one was watching. I saw the tears that came during lonely hours. I heard the prayers you whispered into the darkness. When hope felt delicate and uncertain, you carried your faith through seasons when there seemed to be very little evidence for it. You continued moving forward when every visible sign suggested it would have been easier to quit. Yet you kept going. And that repeated choice, that costly decision made again and again, is what brought you here today. Declare your amen if you have faith. I want you to understand what causes celebration in heaven. It is not only the result. It is not simply arriving at the end of the journey, as though the destination were all that mattered. What brought joy was the person you became while passing through the fire. The one standing here now is not the same person who first began the journey. Something was shaped inside you through every season that tested your heart, through every moment you chose trust instead of retreat. That shaping is what I desired. That is what prepared you for what comes next. The destination matters, my precious child. But the transformation that happened along the way matters more than you realize. I tell you now with complete authority over your life. Nothing you experienced was wasted. Not the delays that felt like abandonment. Not the closed doors that left you standing in uncertainty wondering whether I remembered you. Not the losses that caused you to question whether the promises spoken over your life still remained true. Every one of those moments carried purpose. I do not waste the seasons of my children. I never have. What seemed like a detour was preparation. What felt like punishment was instruction. What appeared to be an ending was actually part of your becoming. There were times when you wondered if I was paying attention. I know you questioned whether your quiet endurance meant anything. Whether your faithful persistence was disappearing into emptiness, without anyone receiving it. Listen carefully, my beloved child. I was never absent from any of those moments. I was present in the silence. I was near during the empty hours. I noticed every act of trust you offered without immediate reward. I received every prayer before the words had fully left your lips. Not one was lost. Not one failed to reach me. Together they have been woven by my hand into the blessing that is now beginning to unfold before you. Something is awakening within you now. Perhaps you already sense it. A steadiness that did not exist before. A peace that is not dependent upon circumstances. A confidence that does not need attention, because it comes from somewhere deeper. That is what I formed inside you through the fire. That is the strength produced through endurance when you walk beside me. The world cannot give what you now carry, and the world cannot take it away. It belongs to you because it was formed within you, and it will remain. Declare, I believe. If these words are reaching the place where truth lives inside you. I also want to speak about the burden you have been carrying. Not merely the normal weariness of a difficult season, though that is real. I am speaking about the deeper exhaustion, the kind that settles into a soul that has endured for a long time without seeing visible results. The exhaustion of hoping while still waiting. The tiredness of giving while not yet receiving. I have seen that burden resting upon you. And today I tell you that the weight is beginning to lift. Not because you suddenly found more strength, but because the season that required that endurance has fulfilled its purpose. It is reaching completion. The next season will require something different from you. My beloved child, I saw you in every moment when you felt unseen. I know the nights when you questioned whether your presence mattered. whether the things you desired and worked for were really meant for you, or for someone more qualified, more worthy, or more prepared. Fear whispered that you were not enough. But those whispers were never true. They were the voice of the wilderness trying to convince you that it was your permanent home. It never was. You were never meant to stay there. I led you through it for a purpose, but through was always the destination. Never around it, never back into it. And now you have come through. So hear what I am releasing over your life today. I am restoring the places where you quietly stopped expecting restoration. I am healing relationships you had already begun mourning as permanently lost. I am opening doors in places where you stopped knocking, because the silence convinced you nothing would ever change. Stop allowing silence to have the final word. The silence was never rejection. I was preparing what waited beyond those doors so it would be worthy of who you have become. I was shaping it to match not the person who first knocked, but the person standing here today. You are arriving at what was always intended for you as the person this journey created. And that changes everything about what you can now receive and carry. Now, my precious child, I am asking something of you. I am calling you to take a physical step of trust, to place a portion of what you have into the work of this kingdom as a sacred declaration. This is more than an offering. It is a testimony. It is your hands declaring what your heart already knows. That I am your source, not your circumstances, and not your own effort. Release a meaningful seed into this mission today. Place the weight of your trust upon the altar. The depth of your surrender will meet the depth of my response. What you sow in faith, I will return transformed. I also want to address something about how you see yourself because the long season behind you has quietly affected that view, and I will not leave it untouched. When someone lives through difficulty without resolution for a long time, something subtle begins to happen inside the story they tell themselves. They begin questioning what they deserve. They begin lowering what they believe is possible. They begin shrinking what they allow themselves to hope for. Quietly, without even noticing it, the boundaries of expectation begin to move inward. Smaller, lower, safer. You have been doing this, my beloved child, and today I am reversing it. I am restoring the full truth of who you are. Not the version rewritten by your pain. Not the smaller version fear created when hoping began to feel risky. The true version, the one I wrote before hardship ever tried to define you. And this is what that story says. You are deeply treasured. Not treasured in a general way that could apply to anyone, but uniquely and personally treasured in the way only I, your Creator, can treasure what I have made. You are chosen, not as an afterthought, not as a consolation, but with purpose, with joy, and for a calling that your failures never canceled, and your struggles never reduced. Now I want to speak about the blessings already moving toward you, because they are not standing still. They are already on their way, and I want your eyes to be ready when they arrive. Some of these blessings will surprise you. Not because you are unworthy of them, but because they will come through paths you never expected, through doors you never considered opening, through people from whom you expected nothing at all. Do not become suspicious because something good arrives unexpectedly. I often work through places you cannot predict, because I am not limited to what you can see. When goodness comes in a way you cannot fully explain, welcome it. Let it settle into your life. Do not keep it at a distance because you fear losing it. Trust me to sustain what I place in your hands. There will be moments in the days ahead when you stop and realize that something has entered your life so naturally, so perfectly, that it feels as though it always belonged there. And that feeling will be true. It did. I placed it along your path before you laid the first stone of this journey. I prepared the people you would need before you even knew they existed. I arranged the relationships, the opportunities, and the moments. All of it was already unfolding while you were simply trying to make it through each day. That is what I do for those who trust me. I go ahead of them. State, I trust, if you believe this word belongs to your life today. And what about the dreams you placed aside? I want to speak to those because I know exactly what happened to them. The hopes that once burned brightly within you, the dreams that slowly faded into the background as waiting became long and endurance became heavy. You never completely threw them away. Instead, you carefully folded them up and placed them deep inside yourself where they could not be seen and could no longer disappoint you. I want you to bring them back into the light. Not all at once. Not with panic or urgency, but gently, like someone beginning to believe again that those dreams were placed there for a reason. I do not plant desires in a heart only to leave them empty. I do not awaken longing in a spirit I created and then ignore it as though it has no value. Those dreams were placed there by me. The waiting did not erase them. The difficulties did not cancel them. Much of what I have been doing during these quiet seasons has been preparing the ground where those dreams can now grow again. And this time the soil is ready. This time you are ready. Not the person who first imagined those dreams, but the person shaped through everything you have carried since then. My precious child, I want you to understand what changes when a soul finally stops carrying everything alone and rests in the truth that it is being held. Not merely as a spiritual idea, but in everyday life, waking up in the morning without immediately grabbing hold of the worries that became familiar companions. Not acting peaceful, but truly having peace. Not pretending uncertainty does not exist, but remaining steady beneath uncertainty, because the foundation underneath you is firm and unmoving. That is what I am building in you right now. Not a faith that only survives easy seasons, but a foundation that stands in every season. I know there have been people in your story who misunderstood you. People who formed opinions about you based only on your hardest seasons. People whose words, whether spoken openly or communicated through their absence, told an incomplete and sometimes unfair story about who you are. Leave those opinions where they belong, in the past and with the people who created them. You do not need to return and defend yourself. You do not need their approval to confirm what I have already declared over your life. Keep moving forward into what is opening before you. Let what I do through you in this new season become all the testimony you need. The joy I am bringing into your life is not the loud kind that depends on perfect circumstances. It is a deeper joy, one that quietly remains even when life is imperfect. A joy revealed not because everything goes right, but because peace remains underneath everything. It shows itself in the way you breathe, in the way the burden of life no longer sits heavily behind your eyes, in the way you begin noticing beauty in places you once overlooked, because your spirit is no longer too exhausted to receive it. That joy is already growing within you. Not something you must force into existence, but something that is arriving naturally. Declare, I receive this today. If your heart is open to what I am bringing, then let me tell you clearly what lies ahead, so you can embrace it and move toward it with purpose. You are entering a season where visible fruit comes from hidden roots. Every prayer you planted in darkness is now beginning to rise. Every sacrifice you made when nobody noticed is becoming the foundation of something others will one day see and benefit from. The faithfulness no one saw is becoming visible provision. The endurance no one noticed is becoming undeniable testimony. What was planted secretly is now growing openly, and the harvest will be abundant. You are entering a season of clarity. The confusion that once clouded your direction and made you question where you were going is beginning to disappear. Not instantly, but gradually, the way morning light slowly spreads until suddenly you realize you can clearly see what was hidden before. The decisions that once overwhelmed you will begin to settle, with a peace your heart recognizes as guidance. The deep inner knowing that comes when I am leading you will become easier to recognize and easier to separate from fear, and from the opinions of people who cannot see what I see. You are also stepping into a season of restored relationships and new relationships. Part of what I am bringing into your life will come through people, specific individuals whose paths I am intentionally connecting with yours. Not every person entering your life during this season will hold the same significance, but you will recognize the ones I have sent by the peace that follows their presence. There will be no exhausting effort in those relationships, no constant struggle to prove your worth, no uncertainty about whether you are truly welcomed and valued. They will carry the evidence of my preparation, marked by peace, depth, and a shared understanding that something fits exactly as it should. My precious child, you have lived through too much to mistake these words for empty comfort, meant only to soften the difficulty. You have traveled far enough to know the difference between words that merely soothe and words that carry authority and truth. I am speaking with that authority now. What I have spoken over this season of your life is not simply a feeling. It is an established reality in the realm where I work long before it becomes visible in the world where you live. The victory I am confirming over your life today was settled before you ever heard these words. Your name has already been written upon it. Walk toward it as someone who knows it belongs to them. My beloved child, do not turn back. Not with regret. Not with longing. Not with the belief that returning to familiar places would be safer than stepping into something new. The previous season has finished its work. It accomplished everything I intended it to accomplish. And now it has been released. What lies ahead was prepared specifically for the person that season shaped you to become. To return would be like carrying the harvest of years back into the field where it first grew, and that field no longer belongs to this chapter of your story. Keep your eyes ahead. Keep your steps moving toward what is already prepared for you. I am with you in every step. Not watching from afar while you find your way alone, but present beside you completely, just as I have always been with those who place their trust in me. When the road bends in ways you did not expect, I am already there. When doors remain closed longer than you think they should, I am there in the waiting as well, and I am accomplishing things in that waiting that will only make sense when the door finally opens. Trust the entire journey, not only the parts that seem like obvious progress. Every part is progress, even when it does not look like it. There is one more truth I want you to carry with you long after these words are finished. You are not someone who simply drifts through life while larger forces determine everything around you. You are chosen. That is not a passive title. It is a declaration of divine purpose. You were chosen before the foundations of the world. You were equipped with everything needed for your calling and placed into this exact moment in history, because this moment requires what only you carry. The fire you passed through was not separate from that calling. It was part of creating it. Everything is in place. Everything is prepared. Everything is ready. Move forward now, my beloved child, carrying the full understanding of who you are and what has been placed within you. Lift your head. Keep your spirit open. Hold your hands ready to receive what is already approaching. Heaven has already confirmed your victory. Not as a distant possibility still trapped in uncertainty, but as a present reality already taking shape in your life. In this breath, in this moment, in the very next step you take as you leave this place and move into the day before you. My precious child, let me now speak about divine timing, because I want you to understand it as you enter this new season. You have experienced delay. You know what it means to pray and wait, to believe while still not seeing, to carry a promise while evidence seems far away. And during those seasons, the enemy worked tirelessly to convince you that delay meant denial, to make waiting feel like rejection, to persuade you that the silence between promise and fulfillment meant the promise was never real. I tell you with complete certainty that was never true. Not once. My timing is not slow. My timing is exact. There is a difference between something being delayed and something being prepared. What you were waiting for was being formed. The people connected to it were being positioned. The conditions needed for its complete arrival were being carefully arranged piece by piece in ways you could not see. You were standing at ground level, seeing only the day directly in front of you. I was seeing the entire picture, the beginning, the ending, and every detail in between. And I was arranging it all accordingly. Nothing about my work in your life has been careless. Nothing was left to chance. I think about the one in the ancient scriptures who carried a promise so great that human understanding struggled to believe it. A promise that an elderly man and a barren woman would become the parents of a countless multitude. Year after year passed. Every visible circumstance pointed toward impossibility rather than fulfillment. Yet the promise never expired. It could not expire because my words do not submit to time the way earthly things do. My word does not grow old. It does not weaken. It does not become less true because seasons pass. And when the appointed time finally arrived, it arrived carrying everything it was meant to carry. Nothing was missing. Nothing had been lost during the waiting. The fullness arrived exactly as intended. I tell you this because I want you to understand what has been preserved for you during your waiting. Your promises were not sitting somewhere fading with time. They remained secure in my hand, whole and untouched, moving steadily toward their appointed season. And that season is now. Not next year. Not after you earn it. Not after you pray more, work more, or prove more. Now in this season, in this turning point, in what is already beginning to unfold throughout your daily life, the promises are arriving. Receive them without apology. There is also something I must say about fear, because fear has walked beside you for a long time, and I am now calling you to leave it behind. Not the healthy awareness that helps you act wisely in difficult situations. I gave you that, and it serves a purpose. I am speaking about the deeper fear, the one that settled into the wounded places where trust was shaken. The fear that good things cannot last. The fear that when life finally improves, something will come and take it away before it can fully grow. The fear that somehow you are not enough to carry the life I have prepared for you. That fear is not the truth. It is a response learned from past wounds, and it does not belong in the season you are entering now. I did not create you to live under the rule of fear. I said it clearly in the ancient scriptures, and I am saying it again directly to you today. I have not given you a spirit of fear. I have given you power, love, and a sound mind. Those three gifts are enough for everything that stands before you. The power comes from me working through you as you stay connected to me. The love is the atmosphere in which you were created, and the place where your life is meant to grow. And the sound mind is the ability to see clearly, to judge wisely, and to think without the confusion that fear creates when it takes authority it was never meant to have. Walk in what I have given you and release what I never gave you. My beloved child, I want to speak about your relationships, because changes are coming that will be both meaningful and gentle. Some of what I am bringing into your life during this season will arrive through people. Specific individuals prepared to walk beside you. Not simply because of what you can do for one another, but because of what I desire to build through your connection. You will recognize them by the peace that follows their presence. There will be no need to perform. No exhausting effort to become someone worthy of their approval. They will know you, and what they know they will embrace. These relationships are not accidents. They are appointments. I arranged them long before either of you understood what I was doing. And there are some who will return to your life. People from whom distance, circumstances, or difficulty created separation. Where restoration serves my purpose in both your lives, I am restoring those bonds. Do not be surprised when certain people come back. Do not question every detail of their return before allowing them near again. Some restorations come from me. Some of what was lost I am returning to you, changed by everything the separation produced within it. What comes back will not be exactly what left. It will be better. It will carry a depth, maturity, and tenderness that could not have existed before the distance. Receive it with open hands. At the same time, there are relationships that will naturally move out of your life during this season. I want you to receive that release without sorrow. Not every relationship is meant to continue through every chapter. Some people were assigned to a specific season of your story. When that season ends, their role ends with it. This is not failure. It is not evidence that something went wrong. It is simply part of a life being guided by a purpose greater than any one relationship. Let what is leaving depart peacefully. Bless it as it goes and make room for what is coming, because what is coming fits who you are now more fully than what it replaces. Now I want to speak about purpose, because I know this question has lived within you for a long time. Sometimes with clarity, sometimes with deep uncertainty. There have been seasons when you sensed a calling but could not fully explain it. A feeling that your life carried a specific purpose, even though you did not yet have words for it. And there have been other seasons when confusion became so heavy that you wondered whether you imagined it all. You questioned whether what felt like purpose was simply the desire of a heart needing to believe it mattered. It was never imagination. You were created intentionally for a purpose I established before the foundations of the world. And that purpose did not change simply because your understanding of it changed. I do not rewrite my intentions because the person I chose takes longer than expected to step into them. I shape the vessel until it is ready. Then I release the purpose through it. You are that vessel. Much of the shaping is already complete. The readiness I was looking for is now present within you. Not perfection as fear once told you, but depth. The kind of character that only a journey like yours can create. The purpose is ready to move forward. And so are you. How that purpose unfolds in everyday life will become clear step by step. I will reveal each part when it is time for you to walk in it. I do not require you to understand the entire journey before you begin moving. I simply ask you to take the next visible step and trust that the next one will become visible when you arrive there. This is how I have always led those I call. Not through a complete map. Through my presence. Not by revealing every detail at once, but by making the next step clear. If you continue walking with me, you will never be left standing in darkness wondering where to go. I will guide you. I always have. My beloved child. Let me speak now about provision because this is one of the places where trust is often tested the most. The question of whether there will be enough. Enough for what I have called you to do. Enough to meet what is required. Enough to move forward without scarcity controlling every decision. That question has carried weight in your heart, and I will not pretend it does not matter. Listen to me. I am your provider. Not merely as a symbol. Not as a spiritual idea admired from a distance while practical needs remain uncertain. I am your actual source. Reliable, faithful, unfailing. Everything belongs to me. Every resource. Every avenue of supply. Every channel through which provision can come. And I have never failed to provide for what I have called into existence. What I ask you to do, I equip you to do. What I choose to build through you, I supply. My calling upon your life is never meant to bring you into lack, and then leave you there. When I open a door, I do not open it into emptiness. I open it into what I have already prepared on the other side. The provision coming to you will not always arrive in the forms you expect. Some of it will come through paths that have never existed before. Some will come from directions you never considered. Keep your expectations flexible enough that you do not miss provision simply because it arrived differently than you imagined. Remain open. Remain expectant. And when something arrives that cannot be explained solely by your own effort or planning, receive it with gratitude. Because it is a gift from me. There is now a resilience within you that I want you to recognize as you move forward. It is not pride. It is the wisdom of someone who has already survived difficult battles, and therefore knows from experience, not theory, that they can endure far more than they once believed. You are no longer inexperienced when it comes to hardship. You do not expect this new season to come without challenges, tests, or moments when trust is needed before comfort arrives. But you also know, in a way no one can talk you out of, that you have already lived through harder things and you are still standing here. That understanding is a weapon, my beloved child. Use it when fear shows up. And it will show up because that is part of life. Do not give it all of your attention. Notice it for a moment. Then bring it to me. Do not sit with it. Do not study it until it grows larger. Do not build your life around it. Just place it in my hands and leave it there. I am able to carry what you bring to me. Your fear does not disturb my peace. Your need does not weaken my strength. What you place before me I take, and in return, I give you the calm confidence of someone who knows their life is held by the strongest hands that exist. My child, I know the exact condition of every area of your life that still feels unfinished or broken. Every place where restoration has not yet appeared. The situations where answers are still unclear. The relationship still being worked out. The doors that have not opened yet. The parts of your purpose that are still hidden from view. I see all of them. And I tell you this, none of them are beyond my power. None of them are too damaged for me to restore. I am not the God of partial restoration. I do not repair half of a thing and leave the rest untouched. When I move in a situation, I complete the work. When I restore completely. When I heal deeply. Trust me with every unfinished area of your life. Place all of it in my hands. What lies before you is greater than what lies behind you. I do not say that to ignore what you endured. What you went through was real and the cost was real. But the harvest that grows from your faithfulness is greater than the field where you planted it. The return on the trust you showed in dark seasons is far larger than the difficulty it took to keep believing. I am a God of abundance, not simple repayment. I do not only return what the journey cost you. I return it changed, multiplied, and made fruitful by passing through my hands. This is what is coming. This is what has your name on it. My precious child. There is something I want to say about how you see yourself. Because a long, difficult road often leaves marks on the inner mirror, the place where you look at yourself and decide what is possible, what you deserve, and what you are allowed to hope for. In some places that mirror became distorted by what you suffered. The picture it reflected back to you became smaller than the truth. The change happened slowly. You may not have noticed it while it was happening, only the effect it left behind. A quiet lowering of expectation. A careful guarding of hope. A learned hesitation about believing too strongly in things that have not yet appeared. I am correcting that mirror. I am speaking truth into the places where the wilderness changed your understanding without permission. You are not too small for what I prepared. You are not too wounded by your past to carry what is coming. You are not too late, too far behind, or too distant from possibility. You are exactly who I said you were before the hardship arrived, before the delay came, and before every voice that tried to tell a smaller version of your story. My voice is the one that carries authority, and my voice says that you are chosen. You are able. You are called. And the season for what I prepared is now. I also want to speak about the quietness that is coming into your life. Not the quietness of becoming smaller, but the quietness of a spirit that no longer strives and has learned how to receive. There is a kind of business that often develops in people who have survived long seasons of hardship, a constant movement that mistakes activity for progress, a restlessness that cannot sit still because stillness feels too close to the vulnerability those hard seasons exposed. Perhaps you learned that pattern. Many people who walked your road have. But I am inviting you into a different rhythm now. A rhythm where what you do flows from who you are instead of who you are being defined by what you do. Rest is not the enemy of purpose. Rest is what allows purpose to continue for a lifetime. And I am asking you to receive it. Think about a field cared for by someone who understands the land. There are seasons of planting, seasons of tending, seasons of harvest, and seasons when the field is allowed to rest. During that time, what was taken from the soil is restored. What was depleted is renewed. That season of rest is not laziness. It is not failure. It is wisdom. It is the choice of a good steward who understands that the land can only give from what it contains, and what it gives must be replenished if it is to continue producing. I am calling you into that replenishment now, my beloved. The field of your spirit has given much. Allow me to restore what your faithfulness poured out. This does not mean doing nothing. It does not mean your hands become idle. It means that the exhausting pressure of striving is replaced by a different way of living, one step at a time, following where I lead instead of creating constant motion from the fear that nothing will happen unless you keep forcing it. Stop forcing it, my precious child. Begin following. There is a great difference between those two things. And the season ahead will teach you that difference, because the last season was focused on survival. Now the survival season is ending. Now the season of following begins. I want to tell you about a kind of day that is coming. Not a specific date, but a kind of day. The kind of morning that belongs to a life that has moved from endurance into flourishing. A morning where the first thing you feel is not a burden pressing down on you, but a sense of lightness rising within you. A morning where the responsibilities of the day feel meaningful instead of heavy, where the people in your life feel like blessings instead of demands, where you look over the landscape of your life and find yourself grateful for what you see. Not because everything has become perfect, but because you can finally recognize the goodness woven through it, the grace working inside it, and the purpose that gives value to every ordinary moment. That kind of morning is not fantasy. It is not a pleasant dream that disappears when reality arrives. This is what becomes possible for a spirit that walks closely with me. A spirit that has learned how to receive my gifts without immediately expecting them to disappear. A spirit shaped by true endurance into a faith that does not perform for others but simply knows. That is who you are becoming. That is why the fire was necessary. And that kind of morning is nearer to you than you realize right now. My precious child, I am not done with you. I do not become weary of my children. And I do not lose interest in what I started simply because finishing it requires more patience than first expected. I am just as committed to the fullness of your story now as I was when it began. And I am far more capable of bringing it to its appointed conclusion than you can currently imagine. I am the author who never walks away from the work. I am the father who never lets go of the child. I am the keeper of promises who fulfills them, not because they are easy, but because faithfulness is my nature, and my word cannot be broken. What I have spoken over your life will come to pass. Not part of it. Every part of it. In the time I appointed through the means I appointed, with a fullness greater than what you imagined when you first brought your request to me. So move forward into it. Move forward with the quiet confidence of one who has passed through the fire and discovered that the fire had limits. Move forward with the calm peace of one who crossed the wilderness and has now begun to taste the land that was waiting beyond it. Move forward knowing you are not alone, that you never were alone, and that the one who stayed with you through every difficult season is the same one walking beside you into this season of harvest. Your victory has been confirmed. It is settled. It is already complete in the realm where I work before it becomes visible in the world where you live. And what I have confirmed, heaven has celebrated. That celebration, my beloved child, is meant for you. Receive it. You have come through enough to receive it. Step into what is waiting for you. My beloved, as this message comes to its close, I want to leave you with something that reaches beyond the comfort of this moment and becomes a foundation for the days, weeks, and seasons ahead. Because the reality is that words, even words spoken with authority, even words carrying the weight of heaven, can sometimes fade beneath the noise of daily life. Pressures return. Doubts find familiar voices. Circumstances that have not yet visibly changed continue to demand your attention, and the temptation can be to believe that what was spoken in a moment of encouragement was not as lasting as it seemed. So let me give you something stronger than comfort. Let me give you an anchor. Hold on to this. I have already gone before you into every place in your future that causes you fear, and I have already prepared provision there. There is no crossing ahead that I have not already seen. There is no darkness coming where I have not already placed light. There is no need waiting for you in any place I have called you to that I have not already prepared to meet. You are not walking into unknown territory. I have already been there. I know the road. I know what you will need when you arrive, and I have already sent it ahead of you. Walk with that truth beneath your feet. Let it answer every whisper of fear when it tries to return, and hold tightly to this as well. The story I am writing through your life is not finished. Not even close. What you have lived through so far has been the beginning chapters. The chapter of formation. The chapter of wilderness. The chapter where the main character is being shaped into someone able to carry the story to its intended conclusion. But the greatest chapters are still ahead of you. The things I will do through you in the next season will be greater than what I did in the last, because now you are more prepared. The depth I can pour into is greater. The reach through which I can work is wider. The authority I can place in your hands is deeper than it could have been before the fire. There is more ahead, my precious one. So much more. Do not shrink back as you enter it. Do not let the unfamiliarity of it, the newness of it, or the responsibilities it brings convince you to retreat into what feels comfortable. The familiar season fulfilled its purpose. It taught what it needed to teach. What lies ahead will teach you things the old season never could, and those lessons will be worth every moment of stretching they require. Say yes to the stretching. Say yes to the growth. Say yes to the life I have been preparing for you since before you entered this world. It belongs to you. It always belonged to you. And now the time has come. Declare your amen if you have faith, not as a temporary reaction, but as a declaration that settles deeply into your spirit and carries you forward into every good thing I have prepared and promised. We run on viewer support only. For exclusive member-only content, scan the QR or see the pinned comment. God bless you.